Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Hope you are all doing great in this evening. It's still light outside, so hopefully we don't take too much of your time, and I hope the time that we do take it's valuable. So today we are here to learn about intro to home ownership. So you are here to learn more about what it takes to qualify for a mortgage. You probably already talked to one of your counselors. Myself, my name is Porfirio. In the case I didn't mention that. We also have here Ms. Arita Higgins and then also Christian Marquez, which are two of our other counselors. So like I was saying, we're here to learn more about what it takes to qualify for a mortgage. And I just, in case that you heard it from our counselors, you're also going to hear it from a person that actually has to deal with mortgages. So that's a lender. We have here our friend Alejandro Rodriguez from Bank of America that is going to be talking about what it takes to qualify for a mortgage. So intro to home ownership. So it's like your 101 course if you're thinking about buying a house, okay? So it doesn't matter if you want to think about buying a habitat house or a house in the open market. He is going to explain what the whole process today, okay? We would love to hear your questions. If you do have questions, please submit those on the Q&A or on the chat, and we would get to them as soon as we can. But without further ado, I would like to go ahead and introduce to you Mr. Alejandro Rodriguez with Bank of America. Alejandro, how are you doing?
Good afternoon, folks. I'm doing excellent. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Alejandro Rodriguez. My NMLS number is 621644. I'm a community lending officer out of Oak Cliff here for Bank of America. So again, thank you all very much for having us this evening, sharing a little bit of you all's time with us. What we're doing, as Porfirio mentioned today, is going over a presentation that we have exclusively here for our clients and our audience. It is called It's Great to Be Home. It's a home buyer workshop. We go over the basics as to what it is that we look at when presenting offers, mortgage options to our clients. And likewise, it'll go over some of the basics that other lenders look into as well. So while it is focused through Bank of America, it is very similar to what you will experience no matter what route you end up taking. Again, my name is Alejandro Rodriguez. I want to make it interactive. We're going to cover a few items. Of course, if there's questions of any sort, we want to make sure that we answer them to our best capabilities. One thing to keep in mind, however, if it is personal, if it is specific to you, a lot of the times we can have follow-up conversations where we might be able to take that off the line. So just keep in mind, we do want to make it interactive. Ask your questions, and we'll go from there. The whole focus, Porfirio, if you can help me by going to page 2, please. The whole reason that we're here primarily is to learn about the home buying process, right? We're looking at a lender's perspective, but at the same time, we want to be able to capture as much information as we can, not necessarily for ourselves, if it's for family or somebody else. But again, the whole focus is to find out what it takes to pretty much become a homeowner. Most folks are going to have different reasons as to why they want to purchase a home. Me personally, I remember when the time came, it was just more about freedom. Me personally, I wanted my own space, my own rules. That's one of the motivations that I had in becoming a homeowner. Other folks do it because of wealth. Other folks do it because of whatever reason it might be. We have a reason, right? One of the things that happens a lot of the times is that I hear folks say that it's a dream, that it's a dream to become a homeowner. And while I agree with the fact that it is a dream, sometimes a dream is not reality. And the thing about homeownership is that it is a reality. It is something very straightforward that you do have the ability of accomplishing. So instead of a dream, I like to call it a goal, because goal is more realistic, something that we do have the ability of accomplishing. So, hey, it's a dream that you can make true, right? So let's look into it. Let's talk a bit about what it is that we're looking into in order for us to be able to achieve that common goal. Lenders typically are going to focus and they're going to review 3 things. They're going to look at credit. We're going to look at credit. We're going to look at income, and finally savings, the amount of monies that we'll need to be able to purchase this home. So we're going to focus on those 3 things. We're taking notes. Take note of these 3 things: credit, income, and savings. All right, Porfirio, if you can help me, sir, by going to page 5. All right, folks, we're going to go straight into it, right? Three things: credit, income, and savings. First thing that we'll talk about is understanding credit. So definition-wise, what is credit? Credit is borrowing money with the promise to pay back in the future. How you handle credit is reflected on your credit report and credit score. So again, credit is borrowing money with the promise to pay back in the future. The biggest thing here within the credit is that it's credit that's getting reported, information that's getting reported to the credit bureaus, right? So in the sense that when you get a credit card, an auto loan, a mortgage, on a monthly basis, we're going to report that individual's behavior to the credit bureaus, and that ultimately is what's building your credit history. So a lot of folks sometimes say, hey, what about my phone bill? I've had it for 2 years, my utility bills. Those typically do not get reported to the credit bureaus. So typically it's not going to help in the credit aspect. It could become a negative thing if those items are never paid for and they're sent over to what we call collections. It could affect it negatively. But typically those items, utility bills, those do not reflect on the credit report. And I say typically because there's rare occurrences that they do. So again, what is good credit? Good credit is very straightforward. A history of paying what you owe on time, using credit responsibly, and pretty much having a high credit score. So again, the history that the individual has is going to be reflective of that credit score. Typically, an individual that has a good history is going to have a high score. Typically, an individual that has negative history is going to have a lower score. So the reason that these things are important, keep in mind, we're talking about a mortgage. Typically, a mortgage is going to be the biggest loan, the biggest financial commitment that one gets in their life. So before we have the ability of lending money, we want to make sure that the individual that's requesting it has a history of being able to manage credit, right? So that's one of the big things. It's critical that one knows where they are, because at the end of the day, it could impact the different programs that one has access to and the types of assistance that one might have access to as well. So again, credit is critical. It's one of the most important things. I'll make it easy, right? I like easy. So one of the things that I tell folks when thinking of credit and credit history is really a report card, right? The majority of us went to school or have children that go to school and they get a report card. My wife, she's a school teacher. She's a pre-K teacher. So the way that she lets the parents know how those children behave is very, very simple. Either on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, you get a happy face or you get a sad face, right? Guess what, right? Same thing with the credit. Once per month, those credit companies are going to report to the credit bureaus how you behave. You either behaved good, you're going to get a happy face, a good mark. You behave bad, you're going to get a sad face, whether that's because you didn't pay on time, you spent more than what you have to. Different things, right, lead to that happy and sad face. Ultimately, that's what credit is. Because of the fact that things move quickly, right? Sometimes folks have credit histories that might be pages upon pages long. So one of the things that the credit bureaus created is credit scores for the lenders or creditors to be able to quickly show a reflection of how that person behaves. That the credit scores exist. So if you can help me, Porfirio, by going to page 6, please. So what ends up happening is that they take all that credit history and they bring it together and they create one easy system, which is called the credit scores. We might be familiar with them, FICO scores. So FICO scores typically from the very worst, 300, to the very best, 850. That's usually what they're looking for up front. If the numbers typically the credit scores are within the threshold of the lending guidelines, then we'll dig deeper into the credit report itself. But typically the first thing that we're going to glance at when looking at credit, right, one of the first things and really one of the most critical ones is going to be the credit scores. From the very bottom, 300, to the very best, 850. So again, let's look a little bit into the makeup of what those credit scores are composed of. I mentioned earlier, payment history, good, happy face, sad face, right? 35% of that credit score is actually composed of the payment history. Again, it promise as pay. There's typically going to be an arrangement that you make with the creditor, with the lender, as to how much you're going to pay on a monthly basis and when you're going to pay. And it's just a reflection if you lived up to that commitment. 30% of it is total debt. So it's a possibility that you always pay on time, but they're also looking at the overall debt that you have, the overall risk that you might potentially have for these creditors, right? And what I mean by that is Let's say, for instance, we have an individual that always pays on time, has credit cards out there, but they're maxed out. Typically, when that payment needs to be made, they only make that minimum payment. It's okay. You're paying as promised, but what would have happened if that individual doesn't have work, or there's an interruption in that cash flow? It could potentially cause a risk not only for the creditor, but for the individual that they could get behind. So again, total debt, 30% is very critical because they look at that, especially when it comes to lending. We have a formula that we have that's called debt to income. Income is number two. What we do is that we're looking at the individual's credit profile and all the monthly obligations that show up on that credit report. When we're also looking at that monthly payment that individual might potentially have, because based upon that individual's income, there's a maximum amount of money that person can owe on a monthly basis. So that's where the debt to income comes into play. You can have a perfect credit score, but if there's too much debt, there's a possibility that we might not be able to lend what you're looking for. And I'm sure our counselors really deep dive into that. And of course, if there's questions, we'll cover those as well. The next thing that we have is length of credit history, which is only 15%. There's no specific minimum amount of history one should have to qualify for a mortgage, but typically the magic number I tell folks is 24 months, 2 years, at least a 2-year history of some type of credit card, auto loan, mortgage payment, whatever the case might be. Typically, we want to have at least a 24-month history, and we want to have at least 2 or 3 items within the credit report, within the credit file, in order for us to have a pretty solid history for the individual. Anything below is okay. We'll find programs. Anything above should be even better. But typically, a 2-year mark of having credit is what we're looking for, typically where it opens up more possibilities of lending. Of course, you can always go through individual review with the counselors. That is what they offer, right? The other 2 things that we have in there is new credit and types of credit used. So it's 10%, and I really want to focus on these. It's a small percentage, but it's important. One of the things that we're looking at is new credit, right? New obligations. We just want to make sure that you didn't go out there and sign on a new car, on a new lease, anything of that sort that might cause difficulty in having to pay back the funds if the case is that we do move forward with the loan. That's 10%. But the other one, types of credit use, is another 10%. So what we have going on there is that I hear this a lot, right? Is the hearsay. A lot of folks go out there and they purchase items that they don't necessarily need. Might it be a car? Might it be a television? Even a phone? What they go do is that they go and they get a loan. They borrow money in order for them to purchase something that they might not necessarily need, right? A television, a more expensive car, something of that note. The reason that the individual does it is that, hey, it's a nice thing, but really, I want to purchase it because I want to build my credit. So they go and they purchase this item, typically valued more than what it probably should be valued, and they end up financing it, meaning that they end up paying interest on that item, which is okay, right? As long as you pay back as promised, it's going to build that credit history. That is, if they're reporting it to the credit bureaus. However, at the end of the day, you ended up purchasing something that's more expensive, and you also ended up paying interest on something that there's no need in paying interest on. So what I tell folks, yes, you could do that. Go buy whatever you need to if that works for you. But if we're really looking at the bottom line, typically the easiest buildup is going to be via credit cards. Using a credit card, if you use credit cards responsibly, pay them on time, always pay them down to 0 every month, you typically will never pay any cents worth of interest. So if you go through and you're responsible, right? Use it to buy groceries, use it to pay gas, $200-300 per month. Pay off the $200-300 in full. Don't finance it. You probably even earn points, but you'll never pay any interest, right? But it's a double-edged knife. If you're using it to buy groceries and gas, and you're paying interest, you're financing that. Then yeah, don't do that. But again, the reason that it's 10% is that it's not weighed that much different. The type of liabilities that you have, ultimately, it's how you manage those liabilities and how you pay it back. But if we're looking at the bottom line, right? I want you all to keep as much money in your pockets as possible. So credit cards typically easy. They're a double-edged knife. It's just a matter of being responsible, and that's where the budgeting comes in with the conversations we have with our counselors. Credit scores. Went over that information. So very straightforward. I mentioned earlier on 3 things: credit, income, and savings. Those are the 3 things that we're looking at. I went over credit history. I went over credit scores. Porfirio, questions, sir? Would you like us to have questions toward the end of the conversation or as we go?
Let's go ahead and save them for the end of the presentation.
Excellent, sir. All right. So if you could help me by going to page 12, please. All right, folks. So we talked about three things: credit, income, and savings. We spoke a bit about credit. Of course, we can always deep dive back. Next thing we're talking about is income. Income is very straightforward. Once we verify where the credit score is at, where the credit history is at, we should be able to know what programs we'll have the ability of working with, right? Even though we might want one program, ultimately the credit profiles, it's what's going to dictate what we have the ability of offering. Talk about credit, we go into the income. The income is important because once we know what programs we have the ability of working with, the income is going to tell us how much money we have the ability of lending maximum. The beauty of what we do is that everything is black and white, that we should have the ability of always telling you the yes or the no and tell you specifically why. There should never be any gray areas, right? It's good and bad, but the same things comes with the income. The income is what's going to tell us how much money we have the ability of lending maximum. And the way that we typically verify this income is with documents. We ask for documents such as pay stubs, W-2s, tax returns, different things, awards letters, whatever the case might be of the income. So some folks sometimes have side jobs where they get paid and they have the ability of demonstrating that they get paid, but at the end of the day, if that income is not reported, very likely we will not have the ability of utilizing it, right? We don't know, not shutting down anything up front, but just being realistic as to that. We have to have documentation in order for us to be able to prove that income. So if you are looking at purchasing a home, make sure that you start saving those documents if the case is that you don't have them readily available. W-2s, pay stubs, tax returns, typically for the last 2 years is what we're looking at. If you're self-employed in your own corporation or your own professional entity, typically aside from personal tax returns, we'll ask for business documentation as well. Not much to speak on realistically on the income part, because that's simply going to tell us how much money we have the ability of lending maximum. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the amount that you have to run with, right? We say the maximum we can lend is 400,000. Doesn't mean you have to go out and buy a home for 400,000. It just means that as long as you're within that threshold, we should have the ability of lending. Of course, we'll customize it based upon whatever you're comfortable with. Income number 2 tells us how much money we have the ability of lending maximum, right? So once we come up to that price point again, and you're comfortable with whatever amount of home you're purchasing, we should be able to know how much that interest rate would be. We should be able to know what your monthly payment will be, and we should be able to know how much money you'll need to be able to close the deal out. Porfirio, if you can help me by going to page 8, please. All right, what we see in front of us is it's a slide called "What Makes Up a Mortgage Payment." Once we identify how much money we're lending and what that interest rate will be, we'll know what that monthly payment is. It's a very direct correlation. The higher the amount of monies we lend, the higher the monthly payment. The lesser the monies that we lend, the lesser the monthly payment. So with whatever amount we're lending, whatever interest rate, whatever term we have, we're going to have what's called the monthly payment, right? Your monthly mortgage payment. It actually includes 3 very important things. The first one is what we call the principal and the interest. The principal and the interest typically is going to be a fixed thing that never changes, because of the fact that typically, and I say typically because there's other programs out there, we're typically going to work with a fixed interest rate for a fixed term. Your principal and interest will never, ever, ever change. That's the part that you're borrowing. If we have a fixed rate and a fixed term, for the life of the loan, that'll stay fixed. Principal and interest. Just kind of look at it like a car note, right? You go out there, they tell you this is how much you're borrowing, this is how much you're paying every month. Same thing with the note. Difference, well, I shouldn't say difference, but something as well is that you can always pay toward your principal, pay it off sooner. There's typically no prepayment penalties involved with it. You'll save a substantial amount of interest depending upon your capacity of doing so. Pay down the principal. But again, the principal and interest payment, even if you pay down, will never change. On a normal basis, the other 2 things that we're going to collect alongside the principal and interest is 1/12 of the estimated real estate taxes. We don't control the taxes. We're just simply going to take whatever your taxes are for that particular property divided by 12, collect it alongside the principal and interest. Taxes, realistically, they'll probably go up on an annual basis. How much? It just depends where you're purchasing, where you're at. Good thing is that if the taxes are going up, typically that's because your property value is going up as well. But it's something that we do not control. We just simply collect. The other 12th is insurance. We need the home insured at all times if we have an interest in the property, meaning that if there's a mortgage and we hold that note, we need to have insurance on that home. You shop for your own insurance, for your own protection. There's minimum standards. Insurance agents know what to look for. But again, insurance, you'll look for your own insurance company. Once we find out what that annual policy fee is, we'll divide that by 12, just like the taxes, attach it on to the principal interest, to the taxes and insurance, and we have your monthly payment. What I've done, realistically, if I were to have a conversation with an individual today, with a FICO score, with a credit score of 720, this is what I would have the ability of offering that client. Porfirio, if you can help me, please, by going to the flyer for 250 with no assistance.
We are there.
Excellent, sir. So what we have in front of us, folks, this is based upon today, October 7th, 2021, going through a pre-approval. I chose a price range that's typical here in my area, 250,000 is the sales price, right? Based upon today, again, FICO score, credit score, 720, mid score, with a 3% down program, which is a specialty program that we have, 3% down conventional loan, we would be lending $242,500. 30-year term on a conventional loan, we would be able to offer that individual an interest rate of 3.125. That's a fixed interest rate of 3.125 based upon today's rate. The APR, this is not the interest rate, this is the APR, would come out to be 3.509. The interest rate, the one that's there for life, 3.125, is the amount of interest that you pay on the amount that you owe. The APR is taking in consideration anything that you're paying for you to obtaining this loan that first year. So of course you're paying interest, right? So it's taking in consideration of that 3.125, and you're also paying fees, or I should say there's also fees involved with the process, and the APR is picking that up. So again, interest rate fixed 3.125, APR 3.509. On a $250,000 home at that interest rate, that term, including taxes, including insurance, including anything that's applicable with the monthly note, we're looking at that monthly payment coming out to around $1,760 on a monthly basis, $1,760. In that example, we control the principal and interest of $1,038.81. That's the number that I say will never change because that's based on a fixed interest for a fixed term. However, once the taxes, insurance, and the mortgage insurance is taken into consideration, we come up with that payment of $1,760. That payment can change. If the taxes and the insurance changes and goes up, which likely it will, that payment will likely change as well. Bottom line, at the end of the day, how much money does my client need? We need to have a few things whenever we're considering a mortgage, right? The amount of the down payment, the fees that are applicable with you purchasing the home, and then finally anything that you have to pay up front, such as taxes, any insurance that you have to pay up front, any interest you have to pay up front. There's going to be a bottom line number, and that bottom line number, typically cash to close. In this specific case, without the help of no one, pretending there are no programs out there except for this special one that requires 3%, that individual that I would be speaking to would need roughly $18,242. $18,242. So at this point in the conversation, I'm speaking to my client. Client credit is good, income is good. This is what we can lend. Client says, hey, let's move forward. The next thing that I need to figure out is where those $18,242,000 are coming from. It's either that the client already has them saved up or they don't have them saved up, right? It's one of the two. If they have this saved up and they want to move forward, we should have the ability of providing the client with a pre-approval letter, which is the ultimate goal, because at the point of having the pre-approval letter, that's where the bank is stating, we're backing you up with the money. You work with your real estate agent to actually go through and find the home. If the case is that the money is not there, then it's a matter of figuring out how it is that we're going to get those $18,242 to be able to move forward. Porfirio, if you could help me, please, go to page 10 of the presentation.
We're there.
All right, sir. So old-fashioned savings, right? One of the best things that we could do is learn to budget our money. Learn to budget our money. So to tell you, as much as we can, put that money aside, look into how much money we have incoming, tighten up the belt, and really save, right? So one of the coolest things that I've heard quite recently when it comes to saving is that, yes, we do have the ability of cutting down on coffee and making it at home. We do have the ability of taking our own lunch, and it is going to it is going to carry us further. It is going to help us save. But the reality is, if we want to move forward, we want to save more aggressively, right? Sometimes on the income part, it's hard to say, but sometimes let's make more money, right? If we're employed with a certain company, how could we get bonuses? How could we get overtime? Or how is it that we could get additional incomes in order for us to be able to save aggressively? Because even though we can nickel and dime it, we can get there, but it'll take time, right? So saving sometimes, there's other aggressive ways of getting it done. It's just a matter of really focusing on how much we need and what it will take for us to be able to reach that goal. It is difficult, but it is certainly something that is doable. Savings for a goal, you have to be strong, you have to budget. The reality is that the program that we're looking at earlier required only 3% down. Decades before, you would need typically at least 20% to be able to purchase a home. So even with 3% down, right, that number is quite high. Imagine how high it would be a few decades ago when the minimum was 20%. The cool thing and the neat thing is that aside from saving money, which is very, very important, there's programs out there. There's programs that Bank of America offers, and there's programs that are offered outside of Bank of America as well. We actually here through Bank of America have something that's called a down payment center. Porfirio, if you don't mind, go to page 13, please. What the down payment center is, it's a site specifically from Bank of America for our clients. bankofamerica.com/down payment center. What this tool enables us to do is for you all to actually go through and select the different areas that you're interested in purchasing a home in, and it'll actually give you the different areas, the different programs that are available there, and a snapshot as to what they have the ability of offering. So there's programs outside of Bank of America that do and might give you the ability of having some assistance when it comes to the down payment and the closing costs. Down Payment Center, exclusive through Bank of America. So it'll give you the ability of viewing programs that are through Bank of America and programs that we have outside of Bank of America as well. But if any of you could help me by going to page 14, please. So here's one really, this is something that I'm really proud of, I should say, right? It's Bank of America's Community Homeownership Commitment. This program, bottom line, is a program that Bank of America created in which we're looking at helping individuals become first-time home buyers. And the thing is, not just by the education piece of it itself, but by actually offering products and resources that help modest income and first-time home buyers be able to accomplish that dream. We understand, as earlier mentioned, right, we're looking at three things. We're looking at credit, we're looking at income, and we're looking at savings, the bottom line of how much money we need to be able to move forward. Credit, we as the lender, we really can't do much, right? When we face reality, it's down to the individual and how they behave with their commitments. And that really is what the credit profile is, right? Us here at Bank of America, Habitat for Humanity, we really cannot do anything for the individual except provide guidance and education. So credit, very straightforward. When it comes to number two, which is the income, the same thing, right? It's about resources. Hey, let's better ourselves. Let's try to get additional income. We'll try to provide the resources, the routes to take that. But again, we're limited as to what we could do when it comes to the income, because it does come down to the individual. However, and the third thing is where we have the ability of shining, right? Bank of America recognizes that that's one of the biggest hurdles, actually getting that money down toward the down payment and taking care of the cost, especially in a market like the one that we have ourselves, where home prices are racing drastically. We're able to help. Initially, what Bank of America did is that we had a target goal of helping at least 20,000 families or individuals become first-time home buyers, 20,000. We set up a side $5 billion. That's a B with a billion dollars, specifically for the purpose of helping individuals with the down payment, with the closing costs, or specialty lending programs, such as the ones that we mentioned with 3%, to help those individuals accomplish that. And the other thing that we set up aside from that, we set up the fact that we wanted to help individuals with the down payment and some of those closing costs. What was really cool about this program is that we really didn't know how long it was going to last. We wanted it to last 5 years. But what ended up happening is that this program started about 2.5 years ago. And within the 2-year mark, we blew through that money that we set aside through the $5 billion. So we saw the need, and we saw the fact that we were helping families. So what Bank of America did is that we increased the $5 billion to $15 billion. We increased the goal, right? We hit the 20,000, so say, hey, let's hit 61,000. Let's increase it to 61,000 new families, new homeowners or individuals, and let's actually extend the program for 5 years. So we have a little over 2 years left on the program. I'm talking about it, but what it is, I'll show you how it comes into play. I talked about it earlier. Some of the programs include the 3% down conventional loans that we offer. But we have another 2 programs that are exclusive to Bank of America, which honestly are quite phenomenal, right? I tell anybody, I can't do my family's loans, but I tell my family, I tell everybody, because it's just a great program. We have 2 things. We have up to $17,500 in which we could potentially help our clients with toward the closing costs and toward the down payment of the home, up to $17,500. And we do this with 2 specific programs. Porfirio, if you could help me by going to page 16, please. The first one that I want to cover is our down payment grant. Bank of America has a down payment grant, which is part of our initiative, in which we have the ability of helping our clients with 3% down up to $10,000 toward their down payment. So I mentioned earlier, we offer a conventional loan that requires 3% down. If we qualify for that conventional loan that requires 3% down, likely we'll qualify for this assistance of 3%. So we're ultimately taking care of the down payment for the individual. Of course, if a person wants to give a bigger down payment, they could do so up to 20%, and we'll still help with the 3%. You want to give more than that, we unfortunately would not be able to help. There's a couple of a couple of things that we look into to see if we have the ability of assist or not. It's one of the reasons that we do ask that you interview with a Bank of America loan officer in order for us to be able to review everything on that person's information and let them know exactly what we could offer. So again, one of them, down payment grant, Bank of America, 3% down, up to $10,000. If you could help me by going to page 17, please, Porfirio. Next thing we have in front of us is our America's Home Grant Program, which is the second program in which we have the ability of helping our clients with up to $7,500 toward their closing costs. $7,500 toward their closing costs. The other program helps you toward your down payment. What's really neat about this $7,500 is that the majority of the time, for the average home prices that I work with, typically those fees come out to be around $5,000 or $6,000. Meaning that if I have up to $7,500, I'm leaving money on the table, right? So for that not to be the case, we make sure that we try to use all that money, and ultimately, because it goes toward fees, usually we have the ability of reducing the interest rate for the individual because we have so much money on the table, and we don't want that to go unused, so we're going to make sure that we use it for something. Up to $7,500 toward closing costs. So you might not hear the excitement of my voice, but I really am excited about these programs, especially when you place it into play. So I explained what they are. I explained how they work to a degree, but let's look at the situation, right? I showed you all a closing cost worksheet earlier for that individual purchasing the home of $250. We mentioned that person needs roughly $18,242 to be able to move forward. If you could help me, Porfirio, by actually bringing in this last slide, please, the closing costs with assistance.
We have it there.
All right, folks. So again, same home, same individual, FICO score 720, purchase price $250,000. We're lending the same amount, $242,500. Loan term is the same, 30 years. Interest rate's the same, 3.125 APR. 3.549. Monthly payment is the same, 1790.29, but the cash to close, much lesser. At this point, we're looking at 3,785. That's a difference of $15,000. Whereas the other number is realistic, but a bit difficult to get there. This number of 3,785 is a lot more realistic. What's going on that in this scenario, we're maximizing those $7,500. We're using all of that to be able to reduce pretty much all the fees. There's no fees that this individual would have to pay because we would cover them all. In addition to that, because the purchase price is $250,000, the minimum down payment is $7,500. I'm helping with the 3%, which is the $7,500 from $18,000 to $3,785. That's quite doable. That's quite realistic, and it is something that we have the ability of offering, right? It is exclusive through Bank of America. By all means, I know one of the things through Habitat is for us to go through and shop around. Just because of the fact that we're putting it out here, shop around, look around, and see what's out there. Ask for cost estimates to see what we have the ability of doing, bottom line. But just because I've done my research, I know that there really is nothing out there in the market that'll give you the ability of giving you this much assistance. So if you are in the market of purchasing a home and you do plan on living inside of that home as your primary residence, I certainly would recommend looking into it. It's not exclusive through me. I certainly would love your business, but of course you can shop around through any Bank of America loan officer, whether it's local folks or whether it's the folks that handle the online channel. We all should have the ability of helping with that assistance. In addition to the fact that we have the ability of helping, if for whatever reason we can get more assistance from programs that are outside of Bank of America, we certainly will look into helping with on that part as well. That's as straightforward as it is. We check credit, we check income, and then finally we check how much money we need based upon the customized offer that we present to our client. From there, if we can move forward, again, we'll provide you with a pre-approval letter. That way you can work with a real estate agent and actually finding the home. Once you work with that real estate agent and you find the home, you win the offer, you'll have a purchase contract, and you'll circle back to us, to your loan officer, in order for us to be able to complete your loan application. If for whatever reason the credit is not there, we don't have the funds that are needed to be able to move forward, we typically identify why that is specifically, and we'll work more with our counselors in order for us to be able to set up goals to be able to reach the objective of home ownership. Again, a lot of things that we look into, but in a basic overview, credit, income, and savings is what we're working with. With what I have delivered, that's what I have for today, folks. Of course, we'll open it up for questions. I'll try to provide answers as best as I can, but that's what I have on my part for video. Anything else you would like me to review, sir?
No, I think you went on everything very detailed. We do have a couple of questions, and everyone that has any questions, please ask your questions. In your screen, you should see Alejandro's contact information in the case that you would like to contact him directly. That is his information in here. As you can see, he has 17 years of mortgage experience as loan officer. He speaks Spanish. For those people that are looking for someone that speaks Spanish, he's fluent in Spanish. But like all means, just because Alejandro is here today, doesn't mean that you actually have to go with him. We are giving you an option. So that's what Dallas Area Habitat is here for, to give you options on what you're able to purchase. But let's answer some questions. One of the questions that Mr. Taylor has, Alejandro, for you is, can you go over the requirements for the down payment assistance grant?
Absolutely. So there's two programs that we offer, Mr. Taylor, and thank you very much for asking the question. There's two typically that we're looking at. One is going to be property location, and the other one is going to be income-based. So based upon the specific geographical area that you're looking at purchasing your home, we have the ability of, if we offer the grant program and if we offer both programs, right, in that area, in that community, we'll research that for you. We're looking at that income being 80% of the area median income or below. 80% of the area median income or below. So that income is not a guideline set by Bank of America. It's actually set up by the government, and that's the number that we use, the 80% threshold of that income. And it does vary depending upon the community that you're purchasing it, So that's one of the reasons that you want to have a conversation with a loan officer for them to be able to answer that specific magic number. The other thing is that because of the fact that we do want to make a presence, right, and help the individuals, if the property is located in a low to moderate income census tract, again, that's based on the government, that's public information, low to moderate income census tract, then the area median income could go up to 150%. So just to give you, the numbers just went up recently, and I'm gonna butcher the numbers, so please forgive me, but just to give you a very rough estimate, right? In the majority of the DFW area, right now that income threshold is roughly around 70,000. So we offer the program, and that income is 70,000 or below. Very likely, the applicant income, very likely we should have the ability of helping. If the property is in a low to moderate income census tract, then 150% of that income is roughly about 129, 130,000. So it's quite lenient in comparison to the majority of the other programs that are not from Bank of America that are out there. So again, my apologies on not being able to give you a specific number. We certainly can give you a specific number, but that'll be one of those conversations that you have with a loan officer in order for us to be able to get you that detail. Hopefully that helps out, Mr. Taylor.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Taylor, for asking that question. Another question that one of our clients had is Maura Cabrera. Ms. Maura Cabrera would like to have a personal follow-up. By all means, like I said, on your screen, you should have Alejandro's email. So feel free to contact him directly. If you're working with our counselors team, either with Christian, myself, or Aretha, we can also guide you through that process and then give you the reference to Mr. Alejandro Rodriguez. Another question that we have here by Tanya Castillo, she's asking Alejandro, is the amount you pay towards the down payment and the closing cost is subtracted from the amount owed from the total cost of the house?
Porfirio, if you don't mind, the question one more time. I want to make sure that I answer correctly, sir.
Yes, the amount that you pay towards the down payment and the closing cost, is this subtracted from the amount you owed from the total cost of the house?
Perfect, thank you. The down payment is, right? So I'm gonna use very basic numbers. We're purchasing a house. I wish this were true for $100,000. We're purchasing a $100,000 home, and I tell you the down payment is $5,000. Then that is correct. You're giving money towards the principal. So instead of the loan being $100,000, we have a $95,000 loan because of the fact that you're giving $5,000 down. So to answer that, the down payment part is yes. However, the fees part is not a deduction of that. Fees are on top of that, right? So we know the house is selling for $100,000, but let's pretend you're not giving any money down, right? On top of that, there's typically going to be fees from the title company and from the lender. Again, I'm making this number up. Let's say those fees are $4,000, right? So you're going to pay $100,000 for the house, and you're going to pay $4,000 for the fees. So that money that you pay for the fees is not going to be reduced from the principal. Please let me know if that makes sense. If not, then we could certainly try to answer it a different way.
Yes, thank you. Another question is, it's just a generic question. Ms. Monique is asking if this is the 8-hour homebuyer education class. This is actually not the homebuyer education class, as Ms. Arita has answered you. The homebuyer education, it's actually a 5-hour class, and that is usually offered by Dallas Habitat every other month, which that means that in November the 20th, that's when we will host the next class. Please visit our website, www.dallasareahabitat.org, and we'll provide you a link so that you can register for that. And we would love to have you there. Let's see. So another generic question that we had in here was, is there a website that we can have for a list of legit homeowner insurance companies, or do we just have to Google one? So if you are working with Dallas Area Habitat, Dallas Area Habitat will provide you a list of homeowner insurance agents that we work with. However, you are more than welcome to shop around with any company that you choose to. And I believe Alejandro will also provide you with a list or just tell you to, look for references like friends or family members that might have a good experience with one. Alejandro, let's see. Alejandro, what is the minimum credit score necessary for any of the, I'm sorry, what is the minimum credit score necessary for any of the down payment assistance programs through Bank of America?
Certainly. So the assistance programs that we offer through Bank of America actually don't have any credit criteria associated with it. It's really based upon property location and income, the applicant's income. However, to be specific, right? There's two programs that we offer. We offer one that's called the America's Home Grant, where we have the ability of assisting our clients with the closing costs. We offer that assistance pretty much, again, if you qualify for it based on the other criteria, with pretty much all the programs that we offer here through Bank of America, whether it's FHA loan, whether it's conventional loan, we offer it through other programs. I can say, however, if we're looking at criteria, right, from other programs that we offer, the bare minimum that Bank of America has the ability of working with is a 600, a 600. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean automatically we can or automatically we can't, right? That's the minimum that we're typically looking at, but we're also going to look at the credit history. But again, the America's Home Grant, that's available pretty much in other programs. From other programs that we offer, the minimum that we could utilize is a 600. On the other program, the down payment grant, where we help you towards the down payment with the 3%, that is only available on the conventional loans that I mentioned earlier. Only on the conventional loans. That conventional loan criteria, usually it's a little bit higher. Again, it always depends on the individual specific credit history, credit criteria, but the minimum threshold that we have for that loan program is a 640, a 640. We have a 640 doesn't necessarily mean we could go in with the 3%, right? Again, we have to look at the review. We have to look at everything holistically to be able to know specifically what we'll ask. To answer a very straight question, right, to give you an idea, typically in order for you to be able to go in for the 3% minimum down payment, sometimes, again, it requires more. In order for us to be able to get the best advantage, typically you're looking at a FICO score of 700 or above. Again, it's not a blanketed statement. It's not a qualifying criteria. It's a usual type of situation, right? So it's always going to be one of those situations that you do talk to a loan officer in order for them to be able to give you very, very factual information. Because again, we're just talking general terms right now. Hopefully that helps.
Alejandro, what is enough, in quotation marks, savings that a lender likes to see when applying for a mortgage loan?
If you remember our slide,
how much do you want to see on that savings account or in that checkings account towards a mortgage?
Earlier, we mentioned that the minimum amount required with both assistance is $3,785. If you have $3,786, we're good to go.
All right. So again, if you're working with our counseling program, that's one of the major goals that we focus on. You work here us say save. You can never have enough savings, right? Because even though that Alejandro or any assistance program might require you to have $3,785, but life after you move in, what do you want to do? You want to purchase new furniture. You want to do all this and that to the house that you moved in, but you don't have no savings, right? What about if you also move into the house and something breaks down? It always happens. So you don't have savings. So which is why that's as much as you can save, we're striving for at least $4,000, like Alejandro mentioned, but as much as you can save. Here comes tax season in a couple of months. So I would suggest that for you to go ahead and put that goal that this year you're going to save that tax money, okay, towards homeownership, okay? And that's something that we're going to work on in our counseling program. We're going to push savings a lot. Alejandro, another question. Will you explain the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval?
Certainly. So typically, whenever you're working with a lender, they're going to provide a pre-qualification letter, meaning that the lender reviewed your credit report. Hopefully, and I say hopefully, right, because we want a thorough job. They reviewed your income documents, like your pay stubs, your W-2s. They reviewed your bank statements just to make sure that everything is there, right? But it's typically the loan officer reviewing these items, pulling the credit report, and sending it over to an electronic, automatic underwriting system. And then based upon feedback, right, which a lot of the times very straightforward, we'll be able to know if the individual has or does not have the minimum criteria to be able to get the loan. So that's typically what a regular review looks like, right? We could do those within 24 to 48 hours, check out that good detail if you get us the documents, but the loan itself has never officially started, in the sense that we have never sent it over to underwriting. We have not presented this to the person that at the end of the day says yes or no. That's the pre-qualification letter. Very rarely do we actually go and request what's called a pre-approval letter. The pre-approval letter is where we actually submit a full application without a property for it to be reviewed by an underwriter. It's a lot more detailed. We're actually going to ask for explanations. We're going to ask for disclosures to be signed. It's a lot more intense, and typically it's not needed in the sense that we don't know typically up front if it's going to work or not, right? Typically when it's questionable or when we want it to be reviewed just to be on the safe side, do we actually go through and request a pre-approval letter. However, and I say this, however, is that the market is changing, right? It's extremely, extremely competitive out there. And right now, any edge that an individual can have against the competitors, they're going to take it. So one of the things that I have seen more and more often happen is actually individuals request the pre-approval letter. They don't want that typically in normal markets because it's very intensive. I'm going to get in your business when it comes to everything. So we're going to ask for documentation when we don't even have the home. But the reason that folks are doing it is that, again, competitive edge, right? Whenever you're out there shopping for your home, you're working with your real estate agent, you're going to have the confidence of telling those sellers, hey, we've already submitted my file to underwriters. The actual person from Bank of America that says yes or no already reviewed everything, and they said I'm good to go for the money. The only thing that I need at this point is my home. So that's what I would say is the difference. The fact that an underwriter reviews it or not, typically not needed, but in today's intensive market, I see it used more and more. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yes, thank you. Now, another question is, does Bank of America have any home savings accounts for first-time home buyers?
Yes and no, right? I say that because there's very few programs out there that are doing anything special for the fact that you're purchasing a home. I say yes or no because you could do it anywhere, right? Just realistically, get a savings account that doesn't have fees and put money in that savings account. That's really what it would be at the end of the day. But there's nothing special typically out there. There is one in the city of Dallas, I believe it's by the name of Wings. Don't know the qualifying information where they'll match a certain percentage of your savings. But there's really not many programs out there if that's what we're referring to. I say yes because ultimately it'll be a savings account, which we do offer, right? But realistically, it's not doing anything specific for the purpose of purchasing a home aside from setting the money aside. Hope that helps.
Yes, thank you. I see that Ms. Lorena, you have your hand up. If you can just please type your question in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll get to it if you have a question. Now, the other question that we have is there any, if I make more than the medium income of the area that I'm trying to look to buy a house at, are there any down payment assistance options?
So depending, right? I mentioned earlier, if the property is located in a low to moderate income census tract for the assistance purpose, then the area median income can go up to 150%, which that number roughly is about 129,000. Excuse me, roughly about 120, 121,000. If we're looking at an income higher than that amount, realistically, I'll say let's check. But I'll say I'm 99% sure that there probably won't be anything out there. Everybody's going to say you make too much money, unfortunately.
Okay. All right, guys, we have 2 more minutes. Get your questions in here before we wrap this webinar. I certainly hope that you found this informative because, you know, we always love sharing this type of information just to we could debunk some myths about, buying a house. A lot of people think that buying a house, you have to have 20% down. And like Alejandro was mentioning, that's old myth, so, we want you to be well-informed buyers. Okay. Aisha Hobbs, she is asking where stated income loans, not sure what she means about her, the question, says where stated income loans retired, no longer in existence. Aisha, if you can just please explain.
Sure. So stated income loans, we through Bank of America, we don't offer them. We have to do full reviews. We're always going to do a full income verification. My understanding is that there might be some folks out there in the market that are doing it based upon bank statements, not necessarily tax returns, but I don't think it's necessarily full stated income. But through Bank of America, no, we do full income verification.
Yeah, for those, you're probably looking at more like a mortgage company instead of like an actual lender. Taylor is now Ms. Taylor's asking, where would you advise clients on Section 8 to start the home buying process?
The same applies to everything. I mean, the reality is that no matter what an individual does, we're going to look at three things. We're going to look at credit, we're going to look at income, and we're going to look at the money that you need to purchase the home. So the first step is to actually get a review done, right? It's something that we offer through Bank of America. You can actually visit Bank of America's website if you want to go through it as an organization, or through the contact information that Porfirio had earlier to visit my website directly. What we do is that there's something that's called a DME application, Digital Mortgage Experience Application. You'll fill in basic information, name, address, social security, date of birth, where does your income come from, where do you live, basic information such as that. Once we receive it, we'll be able to analyze that detail, as I mentioned earlier, credit, income, and savings. And from there, we should be able to say, yes, we can lend. This is what we could offer. And if we cannot lend, we'll be able to identify why that is and what we could potentially do to change those circumstances.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alejandro. I think that that wraps the Q&A. Hopefully everyone found this information very valuable. We always love to have Alejandro and Bank of America here presenting on this information. So thank you everyone for joining us today. This webinar, it is recorded. So in the case that you missed some information and you would like to go back and watch it at a later date, or you found this information very informative and you would like to share with one of your friends, family members, feel free. Our webinars are recorded, so you can always find them in our website. So you just go to where it says www.dallasareahabitat.org, and we'll provide a link in the chat. Kristen, if you mind providing a link. And then also click where it says education. We have an option where it says live webinars, and then on demand. On demand is where you will find the recorded webinars. So you can go back and watch all the previous webinars that we had in the past, and then get your information. If you don't know where to start in the home buying process, feel free to reach out to Dallas Area Habitat. We accept applications year-round if you qualify within a certain income, because if you don't qualify to purchase a house based on your current income, we don't want to waste your time and tell you like, oh yeah, you can buy a house. We want you to be successful. So if you qualify to purchase a house based on your current income, we will work with you and guide you through that process. And then hopefully you reach out to Bank of America, Alejandro, to purchase a house in the future. Or you can always just go directly to them. That's another option. You can always go directly to them as well. Okay. Alejandro, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you all very much for having us, folks. Anytime you have any questions, whether any commitment, feel free to reach out and we'll be here to help you out. You'll have a good evening.